Hey everybody, I'm Scott Wikle. You're listening to My Kind of Country right here on mkocradio.com. We absolutely love this next band that we have on the show with us tonight. We play a lot of their music, and I just dare you to stay seated while you're listening to their music. It's fantastic. They are back with a brand new studio album, and it's a pleasure to have the leader of the group, Alex Dormant, with us today. Hot Texas Swing Band. Alex, how are you tonight?
I'm great, Scott. So good to talk to you.
Hey, man, it's really good to have you on the show. We were talking a little bit before we got on air. We've got some pretty strong Michigan ties with you. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, my mother's family is all from up there. Yeah, my Swedish great-grandfather settled in the UP back around 1895, so we go way back.
Wow, that's really cool. And you attended the Interlochen Arts Academy. That's
I
amazing.
did. Not the Arts Academy, just summer camp. It was 8 weeks of music, which is a long time for summer camp, but I loved it, and I learned to sail on one of those lakes up there too. So I love the summers in Michigan.
Outstanding, outstanding. Well, how did you end up in Texas?
Well, I came down here to play country music. I went to college in Wisconsin, actually, at Beloit College, and one of my roommates was John Ely, who ended up playing with Asleep at the Wheel for about 10 years, playing steel guitar. He was a year older, and he got down to Austin first, and he said, "Great down here, Alex, come on down." So I got here in '77, and Armadillo World Headquarters was still going strong, and I was just a beginning fiddle player, but I got right in the band and started playing.
Well, that's really cool. As I've talked to a lot of the musicians down there, there's a big camaraderie amongst all of you down there, and I'm quite sure that when people saw your talent, you were widely accepted, and I would imagine you had a lot of people helping you out along the way down there.
Oh yeah, it's a real friendly music community down here. It's still a small town kind of feeling among musicians. But yeah, I started on the fiddle, and within a year of being down here, I was playing with Ace in the Hole, the George Strait's band, and played with that band for a year, playing all the Texas honky tonks, for $25 and all the beer you could drink. So that was in the early days before George got discovered.
Oh, that's
I
cool.
started as a fiddle player, like I said, but with my band now, I play the upright bass, which is really just a big fiddle. So
That's right.
having a great time.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, you guys are back with a brand new album. It's called Off the Beaten Trail. This is your fourth release, and I'll tell you what, you've got a great selection of songs, and I'm particularly interested that by my count, there's 7 songs on here that you guys are originals for you guys that you've written.
That's right. I wrote 6 of them on the CD, and one of our female vocalists wrote one. So yeah, 7 originals, and then our 6 favorite covers. I always believe in original music and pushing the genre forward with new tunes. As much as I love every old Bob Wills tune, and I've played them all hundreds of times, I like to try some new stuff and express myself. So luckily, the muse has been visiting me lately, and we got enough to make a new CD.
Well, that's great. Tell me about some of the favorite songs that you guys have written for this project.
Oh, well, Off the Beaten Trail, the title track, came to me right at the end of a trail ride. I was out in the Texas Hill Country, and the trail we were going down wasn't very strong, and the phrase came to me, and before I'd gotten off the horse, I'd written half of it, and so that one's special. Talks about what you see on a trail ride, and then. How Do I Not is more of a jazzy tune that came to me intact in a dream, and luckily I wrote it down when I woke up, remembered the whole thing. Headed Back to the Barn is a great waltz that I wrote, but then I wrote a bossa nova too. This time we have 2 female vocalists, so each of them gets to sing some of my songs, which is a great thrill. I wrote a rockabilly tune, Snow in Amarillo. And then Liz, one of our female vocalists, wrote a Cajun waltz, so we put that on the album too.
Oh, that's really cool. Yeah, I like that. Baton Rouge Waltz. I like that one.
Yeah, Liz did a great job. She sings it so well. She's from Louisiana originally, so
That's
she
cool.
knows what she's talking about.
Well, tell me about the members of your group, and tell me how you guys all came together.
Well, sure. Well, the band's been around for about 6.5 years now, and started with all my old buddies that I've been playing music with for 20 or 30 years. Like, for example, Rick McCrae, the guitar player with Ace in the Hole, was originally in the band, but then he got too busy. So, along the way, I've been finding young talent, that I really love. I love that new energy. So, as much as I love my old friends, I love having younger folks in the band. Our guitar player, Cat Clemens, is only 25 years old, and his it's mind blowing every time every time he comes up with something new. He's a great musician. Selena Rosenbaum is our original vocalist, female vocalist. She's the only one that remains after 6.5 years. And then Liz, like I said, she's does vocals with us too.
Wow, that's great.
The horn players, there's a lot of horn players. University of Texas is down here, so all those jazz majors, they're looking for bands, and I love horns in Western swing, and because Western swing's got one foot in country and one in jazz, so we do both. Sometimes we'll lean one way, sometimes we lean the other way. Our fiddle player Ileana, she's in her 20s also. She's originally from Germany, but she's been over here going to school, and she just approached me on the bandstand one night and said, I'm a fiddle player too, and I kept in touch with her, and she's turned out to be a great fiddle player for the band too.
Wow, that's fantastic. I as I talk to a lot of people in the business doing this radio show, there's a lot of younger people out there that have discovered the older music, and they're carrying it on with a vengeance, much like what you guys are doing. And I'm so glad to hear that you've got some younger people playing with you.
Oh yeah, well, each new generation has to pick up the mantle, or the music, will fade away. And not only do they have the youthful energy, but their friends are young too, and it turns them on to it. I mean, I can still remember when I got turned on to Bob Wills and Sleep at the Wheel and Commander Cody for the first time myself. It was just like a light bulb going off. It was while I was in college in Wisconsin, and one of my other musical buddies up there, Ray Benson's brother, Hank Seifert, turned me on to Sleep at the Wheel. So, you never know which fork in the road's going to take you which direction. You just have to make your best choices as you go along.
You're absolutely right. I had a nice conversation with Merle Haggard one time, and I said, I want to thank you for something, and it was kind of caught it by surprise, but the way that I was introduced to Bob Wills music, to Lefty Frizzell music, Jimmy Rogers music, was from Merle Haggard. He did tribute albums to all these people, and
absolutely,
it caused me to go back and then listen to the original stuff and discover a whole new world, and it's so nice to see that that's continuing on. And the stuff you're doing, you're going to bring that to a whole other generation of listeners, and I applaud you for it.
Well, the fiddle player on that album that you were talking about, that Merle Haggard tribute, was Johnny Gimble. He's a friend of mine, too. He lived in Dripping Springs, Texas, where I live. Unfortunately, he's not with us anymore, but I played a bunch of gigs with him, and we put one of his tunes on every one of our CDs, and we dedicated our last album to him. So,
I noticed that. That's really cool, and you've got one on this album. That's really cool.
We do. Johnny's special.
Johnny Gimble is, in my opinion, the best fiddle player. He had this very distinct style, and I was always able to pull him out of a group. I could tell when he was playing a solo.
Oh,
and I got to meet him a couple times. He toured with Haggard for a few years, and I got to meet him. And I mean, he was just a stellar musician. And I'm always so glad when someone tips their hat to Johnny Gimble, because I don't think he ever got the recognition he deserved.
Well, he was mostly a sideman, playing on everybody's albums in Nashville for all those years. Of course, he was in Bob Wills' Texas Playboy starting in 1949 and all the way through till the end. But you're right, he didn't get the recognition he deserves, and so I mention his name every chance I get.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. Another big-name star that had it was his first #1 song. You guys did a fabulous version of White Lightnin' on this album.
Well, thank you. We do that live every show, and it always gets a great audience reaction. People like the humor in it, and they love to dance to it. You mentioned dancing. We pride ourselves on keeping dancers on the floor, and that's one of the best ones. We do it a little faster than George Jones did it, but I like it the way we did it. And Cat plays great guitar work. I mean, everything is stellar. It's a fun song.
Well, that brings up an interesting question. You guys are such a great, performing band, and like you said, you're out there for the dancers and everything. How is it different when you're putting together a studio album versus when you're playing these songs live?
Yeah, well, you don't have the audience's energy to feed off. You just have the other musicians. And we try to make our records, the last two have been with everybody together in the studio. We have isolation. You're in a separate room, but, we're in the same audio space. We have headphones on, and we're kind of keying off of each other. So, that makes it tighter. But how's it different? Well, you get another pass at it if you. Although we mostly just needed one or two takes for this stuff. On a studio album, you try to make things. What should I say? Well, I tend to do things a little slower tempo, whereas when I'm doing them live, it's a little quicker. I try to make everything count when you're in the studio, because it's your legacy. That's what people are going to remember you for forever. Where as a live show, you can get a little wild and it's just gone in the air. But so I guess what do we try to do? We just try to make every note count and put everything we can into it.
Well, it's an amazing feat. Sometimes when you're working with musicians that are so used to playing live, it's very different when you're recording. So when you can get musicians that can do both, that's a really cool thing.
Yeah, well, thank you. Well, I'm reminded of the old big bands, where they just had one microphone and they would record, and they'd be, cutting the needle onto the vinyl or the wax or whatever they cut it on. And they did so many live performances back then that the bands got really tight. And, they only needed one take. So bands these days don't get the luxury of playing quite as much as the guys in the old days did. Luckily, we get to play, 3 or 4 days a week, so that, it hones your craft when you can play a lot live. So it kind of, it bleeds over, when you're playing live a lot, and when you get in the studio, it's just, okay, we're doing this song that we know so well.
Absolutely right. And you guys certainly are staying busy, and folks, you can visit their website. It's hottexasswingband.com, and you can check out all their tour dates, and of course you can order this new album, Off the Beaten Trail, as well as their other fabulous albums, including Ain't Dead Yet. Man, we have played a lot of music from that album on our shows, and my listeners love it.
Oh, I'm thrilled to hear that. That was a fun album too. That was kind of our breakthrough album. It felt like we got a lot more attention for that.
Sure.
But we're getting played around the world. I'm so glad we're getting played in Michigan and your internet too, right?
Yeah, we're getting all over the world. So everybody in Germany and Norway and New Zealand, man, they're going to be listening.
Well, that's beautiful. Well, we'd love to tour over in Europe sometime. Right now, we're kind of mostly a Texas band. We go on tour every summer to New Mexico, Colorado, and we got all the way to Arizona and California this year. But we'd love to get up to Michigan sometime.
Oh, that'd be great. I have no doubt that everybody that gets to hear you guys will absolutely love what you're doing. And tell me about, this is one of my favorite Cyndi Walker songs, Hear You Talkin'.
Yeah. Well, Cyndi Walker, of course, she's from Mahia, Texas, and she wrote, half of Bob Wills' tunes. I got to meet her in person. My wife and I were at a show here in Austin and got to walk up to her and say hi and chat, and we were at her tribute show. But I Hear You Talkin', she started back in the era, the way she sings it is really bluesy, kind of like a Bessie Smith version.
Yeah.
But then a lot of other people have been recording it, more of a Western swing style. So we decided to go about halfway. It's got the wailing trumpet, the I Hear You Talkin', wah, 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 kind of a little bit of humorous touch there. But it's a perfect song for Selena. It's got some attitude, and she does too. So we put You Don't Know Me, she sang on our last CD, and that's another Cyndi Walker tune we love too.
Yeah. That's one of the standards right there. Eddie Arnold and so many greats have recorded that one. And Cyndi Walker was such a class act. I remember when she was inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame, she came out and she had on this beautiful dress, and she looked so, so proper, and she just exuded an authority figure and a legend. There was no doubt who she was. And
oh yeah. Yeah, when we saw her, she had on a full-length lavender dress and lavender gloves. So
that's awesome.
You don't see that very often anymore.
Absolutely.
Of course, old school.
Of course, Willie Nelson's done a tribute album to her. Merle Haggard's recorded tons of her songs.
Exactly. She's another one we don't want to forget.
Absolutely, a treasure, no doubt about it. Another one you don't hear of as much anymore is Stewart Hamblin. You've got one of his songs on your album too.
Yeah. Now he's. I just discovered his story recently. He's from Texas originally, and then he was in California. So on our California tour, we were in Santa Clarita, just north of L.A., and apparently he was connected to the Gene Autry Museum there, and his wife, who just passed away, was a big part of the scene. So it's called Texas Plains, and once again, it's another homesick Texas song. Bob Wills wrote Texas blues. Johnny Gimble wrote Under the X in Texas. When native Texans go away, they miss it. So Stewart wrote that great song, and we took it up a notch, as far as the tempo. I want to push the limits and Cat shreds on the guitar, and I just love those fast polkas.
Absolutely. And you are doing a couple release parties for this album, and tell me a little bit about what you're going to do to promote this project.
Sure. Well, our first CD release party is November 11th, Veterans Day. So we'll probably do a Veterans tribute also at that show. But we're featuring our new songs from our new CD. It's at Treaty Oak Distilling in Dripping Springs, Texas, where I live, just west of Austin. And we're going to have the whole crew there. So and then our second CD release party is on December 9th, and that's at Green Hall, which is world famous as the oldest dance hall in Texas.
Yes, sir.
That's an afternoon show too. Those are both afternoon shows, so we like afternoon shows.
Well, absolutely, yeah. Musicians aren't typically morning people, so.
Yeah. Well, back in the old days, every gig was always 9 to 1, and you wouldn't get home, if you played in Houston or whatever, you wouldn't get home till 5 in the morning. You get to hit rush hour traffic coming home, which is not any fun. But
no.
Us baby boomers, I'm a baby boomer, it's nice when music is a little earlier. You don't have to stay out so late.
Yeah, I'm getting to that point too. I was a musician for many years, and you were out till 3, 4 in the morning, like you said, and now it's not so much.
No, it's more reasonable now.
Exactly. Well, HotTexasSwingBand.com is the website. Please check it out and pick up this brand new album, Off the Beaten Trail. And of course, they have some other fabulous albums on there I want you to check out as well. Like I said at the beginning of the interview, I dare you to stay sitting down when you're listening to their music. It's great stuff.
That's our goal, is to get people to dance. We play a lot of nursing homes too, and they're dancing in their wheelchairs every time. So, then singing along with our songs too. So
that's cool.
All ages like our music. It's swing music makes you feel good. It's born in the Depression, and people wanted to be happy back then. They still do.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, Alex Dormant, thank you so much for taking time to be on My Kind of Country, and I'm going to let you play the DJ here. We're gonna play quite a few of your songs, but I'm going to let you pick the next one that we're going to play off your new album here.
Oh, beautiful. Well, I guess you should start with Off the Beaten Trail, the title track.
Well, let's do that. Here's Off the Beaten Trail from the album Off the Beaten Trail from the Hot Texas Swing Band. HotTexasSwingBand.com is the place to go. We'll put that information on our Facebook page, too. Alex Dormant, thank you so much for taking time to be on the show, and we look forward to having you on again anytime.
Thank you, Scott. I really enjoyed chatting.